I'm Eshkalar, the world's greatest Canadian wizard, and of course you can tell I'm Canadian because they don't let you dress like this at Hogwarts, eh? So today I want to talk to you about the other form of unusual power that pervades PatchWorld. Yeah. Remember, I've described several times that magic is a standing magical field from which work can be derived, just like in any physics. Yeah. Yeah. Spellcasting, of course, is the focusing of the body into a lens through which magic can be drawn, processed, and do the work intended. Yeah. And how that produces waste heat, which heats up the blood of the wizard. And so he has to be very careful how he paces himself and what level of spell, so to speak, what power of the magic he uses. Yeah. So that's the one kind. You're accessing the standing magical field. Well, there's another kind of power called psychic powers or psionic powers. Yeah. Now, psychic powers and psionic powers are powers that are driven by the mind of the individual, and they do not tap the standing magical field. Instead, they tap the basal tension of the universe, the Planck continuum. That's right. People don't realize that when you want to talk about itsy bitsy teeny weeny, smaller than a dot, smaller than somebody's weenie, oh yeah, we're talking the Planck continuum, where they postulate exist these almost, not quite, infinitely small particles, discrete particles called strings. String theory is all about accessing the Planck continuum. Ultra microscopic, ultra cosmic, hyper microscopic. It's just really and so what happens is this Planck continuum is our universe. It is the substrate of the universe. It is on which all energy relationships are gained, are given referent, so they know what they are and what they're doing and what the other guy is doing and how close he is and all that. You need a referent, and that's what the Planck continuum provides for all physics. And it is like this. It's uneven. It's all textured. And when you hear like the guys like Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think is the good-looking one. Yeah, when he talks about particles, just like virtual particles popping in and out of space because space abhors a vacuum, they talk like that, and they say I'm crazy. But anyway, wait, how can you not believe in God when you say that space is alive and aware? Duh. So anyway, and what happens is, this is just an expression. These particles come and go and come and go and come and go. And if there's nothing in an area, some will appear simply because the basal tension of the universe is high enough to manifest particles when there's no other force controlling or nullifying the effect, mitigating the effects, I should say, of the basal tension in the Planck continuum. Yes. And we're talking about a scale that's infinitesimal. Like a proton at the center of an atom is to us. Yeah. It's like a string is to like the proton. Maybe one of the quarks that makes up the proton. Maybe something smaller. Maybe that much smaller than an electron. Whatever it is, it's itsy bitsy teeny weeny. Yeah, like I said. And you can, if you're a psionic or psychic person, access this basal tension. Again, there's a mechanism involved, which I describe in PatchWorld, right? And here we are with already described magic to you, and how that works, and how wizardry works, and what spell energy is like, and how you make it work. I've already done all that. Nobody else has ever done it. I'm original. I am an icon of chaos because I care about you. Sometimes. And then if I can get high, I'll like lean back against the table and say, do whatever you want. So anyway. Now, with psionic powers, you're accessing the basal tension of the universe. And that can do anything. That is how gravity manifests. That's how, what do they call it, quantum entanglement manifests. It's through the action of the connectivity of the energy structure of the universe. And no, you guys are wrong. It is instantaneous. It's just the cascade effects take a discrete amount of time that you misinterpret as a limiting factor. Well, anyway, I'm not a scientist. You guys are the scientists. It's my idea to come up with the brilliance, and then you have to explain why I'm wrong and why I'm right. And then eventually start writing books where you claim to have said it first. That's how that works. I think Tom Lehrer said it best when he wrote that song called Lobachevsky. Go look it up. It's one of the great songs of all time. Nobody knows. Because they're not Eshkalar. Why aren't more of you Eshkalar? Ooh, that might be lawful. Never mind. I take that back. So anyway, if you have a magical power, you turn your body by dance and by mental concentration, by speaking certain words into a perfect lens for that magical energy from the magical standing field to be focused through you to do work in the universe. Yeah, lightning bolt, one finger, chaos bolt, that makes like knots untie, that kind of stuff. So, little things, you know. And then if you're like going to throw big things, it takes more of those things. Each one is called a tick. I talked about this before. So if you're going to throw something like a meteor swarm, right? Meteor swarm is a, how many? 9-tick spell, 10-tick spell, something like that. I forget. But in it, you have to dance part of the cosmic dance with your feet and with your body movements while you're moving your hands in a specific pattern. I'm not going to make it here. And you are speaking a word in a certain way pointed with all this so that your mind is perfectly focused to channel this magical energy. See, those are mnemonic devices. Otherwise, you'd pop your brain trying to channel too much magic, not knowing what you're really doing. That's how that works. Okay. The more powerful the spell, the more waste heat in the brain. So if you tried to throw a meteor swarm in this world, you wouldn't even get off the ground. And in a world with some magic, if you weren't too powerful, you'd pop your brain like a poodle in a microwave. You don't want to try big spells if you don't have to. Unless you're in a place like my first existence, the Western work we call it. Because magic was crazy there. The universe kept unraveling because of the amount of magic. But spells, you could be powerful enough and cast a wish. You know, like the genies in the stories? You could do that. But there's a mechanism. And if you don't get the mechanism right, things can go very, very wrong. With any spell casting. Here in this universe, magic is almost gone. The only magic that's left in this universe is tied up in the quanta, the Kel quanta, that make up each individual souls, which is why we have the Pauli exclusion principle. Not to explain particle physics, but to explain why each soul is discrete and cannot be the same as another. And why there is a specific, definitive quantity of souls, unless they make more. Yeah, you don't know that stuff, huh? Okay, well, that's what Eshkalar is here for. I'm here for you. Because you might believe in law and not realize that half the universe is chaos, and that the end of everything is chaos, not law. And that if you take law far enough, you get chaos. And if you trace law back far enough, you get chaos. You people. So anyway, what happens is, your mind, as a psychic or psionic power, as opposed to the magical system I described, enables you to pluck that basal tension of the universe in a small way. And that means you can create a cascade effect elsewhere. It might be moving an object to you, to your hand. It might be pushing against the air. So it pushes like your hand, and that means you could throw a punch at somebody at some distance away by pushing the air with your psionic power. Just like you were throwing a punch and bang. Oh, the guy goes, ow. You got one of them air blasters or something. You're like, yeah. So, you know, blow out a candle. Yeah. Pick something up and spin it around. Ooh, pick up a ninja star. Shuriken. Spin it around and go, and send it off at somebody. That's telekinesis. All these things can be done through psychic or psionic powers, depending on which ones you have in your bloodline or in your inclination, because there are some of the powers that don't seem to be limited to certain bloodlines. So, I think I described everything, right? I re-described for you the magical system, so you understand why magic has a physics to it, and what happens if the wizard is unwary or foolish. And I also have described to you what psionics are and how they are different from magic. It's not a standing magical field, one of the 9 quantum fields. Instead, it is from the basal pattern of the universe. Quantum field theorists talk about the next level of effect. The basal tension of the universe, of course, is from which all effects propagate, which means psionics is more elemental than magic, which means that in certain conditions a psionic combatant has the advantage of a magical combatant. And in magical low environments, he is the master. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say today. So you know the difference when I talk about Wild Bull or whatever his name, or Drano or whatever his name, when I talk about them using their psionic powers, and you think like, well, he was just talking about magic. They're different. Psionic powers are the mind being directed to pluck at the strings in which all the universe is tensed around. You know, it's like a net like pulled, and you're like plucking the strings that makes an effect. Yeah. And whereas magic is very complex elements breaking down. As they do, they release these Kell particles, which become the gauge particle in the magical standing field, and the ones that you focus through your spellcasting. Yeah. So that pretty much got it. I think I got it pretty good. Zero Pal Eshkalar is just getting you one step closer to understanding what a truly syncretic world should be like, and what a good, solid, deep fantasy experience should bring to the reader, the listener, or